the grain that has nourished civilization for centuries, and it is making its remarkable comeback in our diets again.
Ayurveda Pediatrician. As a knowledge opinion leader, she has given several talks on principle of Ayurveda. Welcome doctor, welcome to bhrsa.com. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you so much. Nice to see that people are interested in learning about the understanding of food principles. I think everyone knows about calories and the protein content and the carbohydrate contents, but now people are trying to understand how their body reacts to it. And I think that's where the introduction to Ayurveda dietetics has been helping people to make the right choices.
Before we start our conversation, this is a chamomile tea from bhrsa, and we would welcome you with this tea.
Thank you so much. I think conversations over tea really make a huge difference.
Actually. Doctor, I wanted to know why we should include millets in our daily diets. Like what nutrition profile, what makes it unique? Why should we include them in daily diet?
So when you mentioned that it's re-emerged, millets were something which was always part of our diet. Like if you go into the traditional pockets of practices in the different parts of India, each of them have these special recipes, special times in which they have these millets. It was kind of lost because I think as people started getting more urbanized in a sense, they started going for the most popular cereals which we all know, which are the rice, the wheat, etc. And suddenly people realized that even in that they wanted a variety. So I think now for health reasons also people are realizing that millets are important. They have a role to play in multiple levels, because when you look at it as a cereal, it is something which contains carbohydrates, no doubt. It is something which contains some amount of proteins. It is something which contains certain specific minerals or vitamins, like some are very high in iron, some are very good sources of calcium. Just to give you an example, like bajra is excellent for a very good source of iron. Ragi also contains small quantities of iron, but it's also known for calcium. So like that, each of these have a very specific property which they can give an individual. But it's important to remember that millets are a part of one food group. It's not something that is a complete meal, right? So it's important to make it one component of the meal which you are having. And in Ayurveda also a lot of importance is given to millets. We have described them in the classics as what is called the kudanya, something which is considered to be important in the diet, but not something which you focus or make like the the main component of the meal, and not something which you have daily either. It is like the rice, and among the millets the barley is given the importance there, where it says that barley is something you can have on a daily basis, because that is something which is good for the body. It is good for digestion, and it does not cause an imbalance in the system even if you have it on a daily basis. So I would say yes, millets are very, very important, and inclusion of them in the right form, the right way, in the right quantity is the most important point. It's not that you can have it in any form every day in large quantities or replace something with millets. It should be, as I said, a part of a meal, not the complete
Not the
meal.
complete meal. People have gone nuts and crazy about millets, and they are making it complete replacement. How we can incorporate them in our cooking techniques? What kind of cooking techniques we should practice to take the millets in our daily diet? Are there any specific cooking techniques or methods that work best for different kind of millets?
That's a very intriguing question which you ask, because when we talk about millets, there are certain anti-nutrients which also come into play. And we see that there is a specific methodology. As I was talking about the traditional practices, you will see that in each pocket they have a way in which they make it. Like when they make a bajra roti or a jawar roti, there are certain components which go with it, and it has to be made like that. The way in which you soak it, you grind it, or you ferment it, all of these are important these steps because they help in removing, or possibly now we're realizing that they help in removing those anti-nutrients, etc., which could have a negative impact on the body. Just to give you one example, possibly, see, millets, everyone knows. Yes, it's a low glycemic cereal, which everyone can have, and it's a very good source of protein as compared to any other cereal, etc. But this protein actually may not be so bioavailable in our body.
Correct.
We may not be able to utilize it in the right sense. So how is it that it's possible? And they have also found that millets as such, if you're not cooking them, if you're using them raw, then they do have goitrogenic effects also. So it's important that we use the millets in the right way, and the cooking techniques which you mentioned are a great way to do this. Like just dry roasting a millet is something, cooking or steam cooking or pressure cooking or just boiling a millet itself is something which makes it much easier on digestion. Even in Ayurveda, to add that perspective, where we say that millets in general are heavier on digestion as compared to any other cereal. So to make sure that we are able to utilize and assimilate it, cooking is a very integral part. So there are different ways in which you can do it, like dry roasting it, cooking it with obviously using fire, fermenting it, soaking it. All of these are great ways in which you are not only imparting certain extra properties to the millets, but also actually making it utilized or something which can be assimilated by the body.
Ayurveda is very specific and individualized, and it categorizes each individual in specific body types like Kapha, Vata, Pitta. If our viewers don't know, they can maybe reach to bhrsa.com, or they can maybe directly reach to Dr. Madhumitha for diving deep into what is your body type. But yes, coming back to the point, which kind of body type person should be eating which kind of millet, or we all can eat all kind of millet. For example, I am personally a Vata dominant person, so whether I should be eating ragi, which I came to know recently is very drying in nature. So I started incorporating ghee in my diet and ghee with ragi. So whether I should be eating or not, and all other body types, what's the Ayurveda take?
That is a very, very important question, and you simplified it for me by saying that I don't have to explain the body types, because that's a whole section in itself.
It will take too much of time.
When we talk about each individual, you can very clearly see that there are differences. Like in a family itself, a person who, if everybody is having a millet, each person reacts to it differently. There will be a child who probably will be like, oh, I don't like this texture, and may not have it. An elderly person may not be able to chew it because they're like, oh, this is too fibrous and I'm not able to digest it, right? So these kind of differences do come with what we call the prakriti or the body types in Ayurveda. And for each of them, there is a specific suited thing. So barley, as I mentioned, is a millet which can be used across prakritis. There's no problem, because that is something which balances more or less all the three doshas, etc.
Using barley.
But in general, when we talk about, there are specific properties to each of these, and the way in which Ayurveda explains this is how our body reacts to it. And I think that sensorial appreciation is the beauty of Ayurveda, where it says that when you take a millet, how do you feel when you are digesting and ingesting it? Is it something which makes you feel heavy in smaller quantities? Is it something which makes you feel dry, as you mentioned, etc.? And we obviously see an effect on our bodily functions also. Like many times through practice, I have seen people say, oh, I know millets are very healthy for me, but when I take them, I feel very heavy with eating small quantities of food. I'm losing a lot more weight. Not everybody wants to lose weight.
True.
And also I get a lot more distension. I feel like I have a lot of gas in my system, etc. So these are the general properties of these millets, that they are something which increase the vata or something which imbalances the vata dosha in the body. And one of the presentations is through this distension, etc. So as you said, each millet has a specific property associated with it, so going into the details may be a little difficult, but generally most of them increase the vata.
Vata, yeah.
And they are a little heavier on digestion as compared to the other cereals in general. There are exceptions, like probably jawar is something which is very light on digestion. And therefore you have to see what is suited to the individual. Mostly for kapha and pitta, they can handle more or less all of these, there's no problem. The vata is the problem, where it becomes difficult for them to utilize most of these millets. So the trick which you are using is a great way, where when you combine something like ghee or something which is fat based, that definitely makes it suitable for vata also. So it's not that millets cannot be had by all the doshas. It should be, and they should include it in their diet. But the point is how you can change it, how you can make it suitable for the individual is the importance of each millet.
Maybe the key takeaway is having it at the right time with the right combination. Like if I'm having ragi, I'm having it with ghee, and I'm having buttermilk along with it, so as to balance it, and I'm not having it at night.
Absolutely. That's a very key thing which is explained, where it says right time, right quantity, right place. So if you know that about yourself and you take that in relationship with the millets, then that would be the perfect step forward.
Combining millets, like how can we combine millets with other ingredients and maybe in our modern cooking practices?
Nowadays people have taken this a step forward, where you are seeing millet kitchens, where I have seen pastries which are being made out of millets. I'm seeing muffins and cookies and roti, of course, is a traditional, and then you have these sattu mavas, or what they make for children and elderly people. There are so many ways you can use that, because it's after all a form of cereal which we can convert into any form. Now, the definite combinations which I would suggest in the Ayurveda perspective would be, of course, the cooking techniques which we use, which is to either soak it and either dry roast it before you use it, or definitely cook it before you use it like that. And when you're combining it in the food, it's important that you add sufficient fat. And this is very important because most people think, oh, I should not add ghee, I should not add oil, it's not good for me, the cholesterol goes up, etc. It's true, if you have excess of it, no doubt, but especially when you're having millets, it is important.
Busting the myth, by the way.
Adding that extra 1 teaspoon of ghee or oil is going to help you digest that millet better. So that is very, very important. Apart from that, you can combine millets with like dals, you can combine them with vegetables, that's not the problem. As I said, it should be a component of a combination. But if you add something like sourness to it, if you're going to add like a dash of lemon, or you're going to eat it with a sambar which contains tamarind, that's going to make sure that maybe the iron component of it is going to be more bioavailable. Or adding that sourness is going to make it more suitable for a vata dominant person. Because when you add the sweet, when you add the sour, when you add even a pinch of salt with ghee, is going to make it so much more suitable for a vata dominant person. And for the kapha, because millets in general are good for them, but it is difficult for them to digest it. For them, the way in which we can do it is to dry roast it, make it lighter on digestion, maybe add a few spices like pepper, ginger, etc., which will make it easier for them to assimilate.
Which will increase the digestive fire.
Exactly. And for the pitta, they are very good. They can digest most millets as such, because even heavy foods are very easy for them to digest. But some of them are hot in nature. Most of them are cooling. But example, I would say bajra is something which is slightly hot in nature. So in such cases, adding, you may always wonder why that bajra roti comes with a little bit of jaggery and butter. The reason is because it helps in balancing the pitta. So these combinations are very important. Like even one of my favorite, I would say, is like the makhi ki roti. You need to add that butter. If you have it just like that, you will get a stomach pain because you will not be able to digest it. So that's why these combinations of these specific millets with their counterparts is important.
And maybe season also, that we cannot have makke ki roti all round the year. We should maybe probably have in the winter seasons only.
Absolutely, that is a very important point. And this, as we've been interacting with people, we have been finding that in the southern part of India, it's not so common, in the sense that we have like a common diet which is practiced through the years. But coming from an Ayurveda background, I always used to question this, because you do have a different form of hunger in each season. When you go to summer, you crave for more things which are liquid in nature. While if you go towards the winter, you crave for something which is heavy, which contains all this ghee and the urad dal, the dal makhni and the millets and all of that.
Interesting.
Exactly. And the reason is because how you are experiencing this, the seasonal change is definitely having an effect on you. The example which you asked about the makhi ki roti, it's my personal favorite thing. So I used to go to these Punjabi restaurants and ask them, because there's speciality there, and I'd be like, can I have makhi ki roti in the peak of summer? And they're like, sorry, it comes only in winter. So I used to wonder why. Is it because you don't get makhi ki roti in any other season, like it's only something which comes in the winter? But no, the reason is because the combination of the makhi ki roti with the sarson ka saag is so hot that in the peak of summer, nobody, if they have that, they're actually going to get like an imbalance of the pitta. So that's why it's a winter specialty, because not only the makhi ki roti very heavy on digestion, you cannot digest it very easily in any other season, and the sarson ka saag is perfectly combined for the winter season. Similarly, many times if you go to certain parts of like northern parts of India, jawar is not so common for them, but bajra is more prevalent in the winter seasons.
Yes.
Because it's a warmer millet which people can digest only at that time. While jawar is something which is more cooling. Which naturally, if you see the southern states,
jowar roti and ragi mudde.
Exactly. So it's pretty interesting to see how people, of course, the availability, the growth, all of that matters. But you can see that the traditional knowledge which people have, that this is a winter versus this is a summer, is something which has been lost over a period of time. And now that people are just saying, oh, this is good, let me just take it at any season, then you're starting to see that may not be the best idea.
Yes.
Turn around and say hi.
What's your name? Elsa.
You touched upon the subjects of specific regions and climate, so that brings me to my next question, that are there any specific millets or preferences according to the geography or location of where people are living? They should be having that kind of millets only. In today's times, we are having mixing of cultures and mixing of tradition, and a person maybe sitting in Delhi might be eating ragi, which is predominantly being produced in Karnataka. So what's the Ayurveda take on it, and how should we navigate through it?
This is also a very important point which we have to discuss in the present day, because it's not only restricted to India anymore. True. It's kind of become a global thing where people from here are taking, like I remember when we were traveling, we were actually carrying ragi and jawar and all of that to our friends abroad, because everyone is, they want to try it, they appreciate it, they enjoy it, and they want to make those dishes too. In Ayurveda, we do say that, eat local and seasonal, because that's something which is well suited to the place, etc. And I would say nowadays for tourism also, like when I go from the southern part of India somewhere to the north of India, I want to taste the food from there. So does that mean because I'm coming from here, I should go only have South Indian food there? Yeah. That makes no sense at all, right? So the point is, when you are going to that place, it's important to go taste the food of there. It may not suit you if you continuously do that for over like a week, 10 days, etc. But it is something which you have to experiment. You want to feel how, it feels to have the local food. You go on the roadside or, specific kitchens, etc. and you have that. That's surely going to give you a new experience. So, my only take on this would be is if you are going to change your meals completely. Like if I shift from a southern part of India to some other part and I'm not used to the food there, then in Ayurveda we do say it's important to slowly let go of what you were used to and adopt what is new to you. So this is what is called satmya. Because if you are not used to it, like, and this again is something which we are seeing. In Delhi, if the person is from here and they've had ragi before, it's something which is going to still suit them to an extent.
Right.
But if there's a person who's never had ragi in their life and you suddenly say have ragi, that will definitely imbalance their system.
Yes.
They will not be able to digest it. They will not be able to assimilate it, and that is going to lead to imbalances, which is not the best idea. So it is a great idea to change over, utilize different things, but specifically if you're doing a major changeover, either with respect to geographical location or even in your own diet, I would say, you may be sitting in Delhi and you decide, okay, I'm going to have new millets, which I want to have. No problem with that. But make sure you're doing it in the right form, in the right way. Like slowly let go of what generally they say 1/4 by 1/4. So you start with a small portion of an addition of a millet, maybe as a single dish. Then you can like change it to half, 3/4 and fully if you require. But let me caution you on that too, that this complete changeover for any reason is not the best idea. It is important to have sources from everything. Obviously not the best idea to go for things which are which are negative to you. If you have specific disease conditions or you have some problem due to which you cannot have a specific food group, etc., then you could definitely stop that. But otherwise it is important to have the different food groups in all the combinations so that the body gets important nutrients from everything.
Every source, yes.
It's not just one being the most important.
Yes.
It is a combination. It is a balanced diet.
It's not one magic miracle thing you have eaten and your health is completely restored.
Correct.
So yes, the key takeaway is maybe start slow and gradually test the thing in your body. And if you have not eaten that thing from your childhood, maybe you should definitely test it in your body, that your body is able to digest it properly, assimilate it or not. It might not suit you because you have not been accustomed to it. Your body has not been accustomed to it.
Absolutely. And just because once you've tried it and you find that it does not suit you, you don't need to give it up either. You can try it in different forms. Many people nowadays, because they want to add millets into their diet and may not be able to eat it in the full form, you get it in the powder form, which can be added into the dosa batter or the idli batter which you use.
Very interesting.
Or you can add it as a part of the rotis which you're eating. So those are also ways in which you can incorporate these into the food which you're eating.
Maybe this question might have given a lot of answers to you, so just pay attention and maybe note it down. Are there any common misconceptions you have come across regarding millets which you wanted to address on?
There are many, unfortunately. I think it comes with this concept which we were discussing about the superhero or the superfood. Like where you're like, if I adopt this or I take this, then I'm done.
Which nowadays is everywhere. This super oil, super food, super ingredient. Yeah.
That itself is a misconception because as I'm saying, there is no one thing. But I must add, in Ayurveda, we have certain things which we say are important to be had on a daily basis.
Nitya sevaniya ahara.
Exactly. But
I'm a good student.
But that for the term, it means foods which can be had on a daily basis. But basically, even in that, what we do see is that it is a combination. There is nowhere where it says there should be had only one food and that's it. That's enough for you, for the rest of your life. So this common misconception of where let me adopt one thing and I'll be the healthiest of that is not possible. Because it is important that you get components of nutrients from different sources.
Right.
And that is very, very important. Another misconception which I have commonly seen is, this is healthier than my other general cereals, etc., which I have. Especially, I think there was a time rice and is still kind of made the villain, right?
True.
The villain of the story has become rice.
Rice.
So then they say, no, go for the millets because they are better,
Yeah.
they are good for you, etc. I'm not saying that. I'm not
Pay
denying.
attention.
I'm not denying that they are not good. They have their attributes, no doubt, but rice has its place too. So especially there are different varieties of rice, and you have seen, I mean, we can see that they have certain benefits. Like most commonly, this comes from practice, like from people who have been talking to. They tell me that rice is something which suits them. Because again, the suitability, the satmyata, they've
Yes.
been on rice for so long.
Yeah.
That when they have that, it does not disturb their system. So suddenly when they go to these millets, they're like, it's causing me more gastritis. I'm not able to sleep properly.
True.
I'm losing a lot of weight. It's making me feel weak. So there are these extreme cases also. Not everyone gets to that phase, but probably due to the wrong methodology of preparing it or not suitability to the prakriti, it may cause that. But we have seen these extreme reactions when a person like suddenly changes over. So this is also a misconception that this is healthier than this. If you are used to this, it is good for you. It does not make it something which is negative to you. You can add the millets also, but it's not that you have to give this up completely.
Yes.
So let me just put a perspective of this in the Ayurveda understanding, where we have something called the Agni or the digestive power. And this is very variant across people. So when I say that, you need to have a full cup of millets, there may be one person who can have it and another person who gets probably vomiting and diarrhea post that because they cannot digest it. So it is very important to make it suitable specifically for that individual. So just this general thing that this is healthier may not be the right thing for everybody.
It doesn't
That's
make
what,
sense.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say, because health for the specific individual is dependent on various factors like your prakriti, your environment, your agni, which is very individualized and personalized to you.
Yes.
So there is nothing I can say that, oh, this is suitable to everybody, so you also have it and it's healthy for you.
Yeah.
So that is a definite misconception that we have to overcome, that yes, the glycemic index of millets are lower, no doubt. So in specific conditions like diabetes, etc., it makes sense that you switch over to that because they have higher fiber, etc. But even among the millets, it's important to choose the ones because not all of them are good for all conditions.
Correct. So it's not just one size fits all. We have to taper and we have to cater for our own needs. We have to find out what suits us, what doesn't suit us. We have to know our body type, our geographic location, what we have been eating, and we have to make health very individualized thing and not just, okay, this is suiting everyone, so I'll just take it and replace my entire diet with it.
Absolutely.
It was very precious knowledge. We don't get to hear this everywhere, but this actually helps a lot. Next thing which I was thinking, and it connects to this question, is what can be the challenges if we want to incorporate millets in our diet? And have you seen any kind of challenging situation amongst your patients regarding millets and how we can incorporate them in our daily diet?
Oh, yes, there are many case stories and probably I will share a couple of them to tell you what exactly we saw, right? So I do work with a few dietitians also and they change the diet based on the nutritional requirements of the individual, which is a very, very important component, no doubt about that. But the sensorial aspect, which I was talking about in Ayurveda, we are realizing is more and more important. So there were two cases which come to my mind when I think about this, because both of them are to do with millets. It's actually a husband and wife. Wife had diabetes, as in she had a high HbA1c, etc. So utilizing medications as well as a change in diets, we were able to bring it to a very good level. So she asked me, I gone on a very healthy diet and she shared it with me, and she had replaced rice completely with millets, etc. She got this combination of millets which she was having, and because there were only 2 of them, it was very difficult for her to cook a separate meal. So these are also components which we need to think about, where she couldn't make a separate meal just for her husband when there are only 2 of them. So he also started having a similar diet to her. He is also diabetic.